One of the first things you notice with the Atom is that when you walk up to it, it hasn't lost any of its drama over the years. People might be looking at the Nomad now as sort of that's the halo car for Ariel, bizarrely in many respects, but it's a beautiful thing with that exposed chassis and the inboard suspension, particularly on this car, the 3.5R, because it's got the Öhlins TTX dampers on it, and they are just so jewel-like, sitting there all proud and for the front suspension. There are so many good angles on it, and it's such a dramatic thing to be around, and despite the fact it's been around for 20 years, and yet still it looks fresh as a daisy. It's just such an incredible looking thing. It hasn't aged at all, particularly with all the extra aero addenda from the V8 Atom that's on this one, with the side pods that have a charge cooler on one side and an oil cooler on the other side. I love the fact you can look into the pedal box, and the fact it is all exposed. I mean, it does have to be well put together, and it does have to be beautiful. You can't have any sort of loose ends around there. So what are the specs for the 3.5R? Well, it's got the supercharged Honda VTEC engine in it. Power is now up to 350 horsepower, so that's a 40 horsepower increase over the 310. It's up to 243 pounds-foot of torque. That drops the 0 to 60 time to 2.5 seconds, and the 0 to 100 mile an hour time is now 6 seconds. That is just bonkers. I love launching an Ariel Atom. It's just such a fun experience. You actually launch them in second gear. The rapid way they get off the line is just brilliant. There was less, I suppose, sort of that supercharger whine that we've come to know from the supercharged Ariel Atoms, but it's just such a gritty noise. And the soundtrack is added to by the feature that I suppose links it most closely to the V8 Atomed Ariel 500, which is this SADAV sequential box, which is paddle operated. It's pneumatically actuated, and it's just such a cool thing and really adds to the car and makes it, I think, even better on track, and there's a very good reason for that. With this paddle shift car, you can left foot brake much more easily. When you're pottering around the pits or you drive it through town, then it's best to use the clutch, but as soon as you're out on the track, you can flat shift with it. You can actually downshift 5 shifts in a second if you're quick enough on the paddle. I'm not sure I could be, or even quite when you'd need to do that, but it is just a fantastic box. And so when you're up and running, you've got all the amazing sort of cracks from full bore upshifts on it. And because obviously you look at the weight distribution on an Atom, and all the weight is pretty much over the back where that engine is. So to help get the nose in the corner or trim the line, just being able to left foot brake a bit really, really helps with the balance. These Atoms over the years have changed dramatically, really. When they first came out, they were very tricky to drive because of the weight balance, and now they just feel so well balanced, really, and they get into a corner so well now. They're just a huge amount of fun. It was a while since I'd driven something quite so lightweight. It only weighs 550 kilos. Perhaps the biggest compliment you can pay the Ariel Atom is the fact that you get out of it at the end of the day, and with so many track cars you sort of say, oh, it's good fun, or it's something a bit different, but why wouldn't you have a Caterham? With the Atom, you genuinely don't ask that question, because it is its own thing and it brings something different to the party. It took a while to actually get used to the fact of how late you can brake in it again, and how hard you can brake, how aggressive you can be, and also how well it coped with the bumps, which is really impressive. Out of the second chicane coming back round, there's a big bump through the quick right-hander there that in a lightweight car you might think it might get really deflected and feel pretty terrifying, to be honest, but the Atom was absolutely brilliant. Again, through the quick corners at the end of the straight down to the first turns, it was really faithful and actually gave you a huge amount of confidence. Out of the quicker corners where you're steering it from the rear, in the V8 you had way more power than traction, so you really could steer it on the throttle. This wasn't quite like that, so you needed to carry more momentum into the corner, definitely, to get it oversteering on the exit, and just that lovely way that it can. It might have been around for a few years now, but I'm glad to have finally driven it. The V8 is still my absolute favourite Atom ever, but this runs it a very close second. It was just brilliant to drive. So viscerally thrilling. It's just such a fun car, and I love it to bits.